My name is Alexis Quintana. I work at Leading Edge PPG as an instructor, and I run the glider shop here up in Michigan. The glider shop is awesome. We do full inspections and repairs here. In a full inspection, we start with checking the fabric porosity, because the fabric porosity is the one item that'll tell you whether a glider has life left in it still. But once the glider passes the porosity inspection, then we'll move on to hanging it up, checking all the fabric inside and out, all the stitching, all the seams. And then once that fabric is all taken care of and mended, I move on to inspecting the lines. So the lines, I check each line segment to make sure that they're intact, there's no breaks or wearing of the stitching on them. I replace any that need to be replaced, and then I take off the most stressed line, which is going to be the centermost A lines from the riser all the way up to the glider. I'll replace those, and then we test their braking strength. So we connect them to a winch and a force meter and stretch them until they actually break, and compare those measurements to what the manufacturer specification for the wing should be. So porosity is the best indication of how much life is left in the glider. What the porosity machine is doing is you put a piece of the fabric at the top, and then the cylinder below is raised, and then we release the weight at the bottom, and then as that cylinder fills with air, it's pulling the air through the fabric, and then the meter is measuring the number of seconds it takes for that air to get pulled through the fabric. So the longer it takes, the better the condition is of the fabric. The nice thing with this porosity measure is it tells you if the glider's starting to get worn out, if it's getting worn out in different places, upper or lower surface versus in the center or the wingtips. Once the porosity is shot on a glider, that's when it's time to retire it. We can replace everything on a glider, fix stitching, fix tears in the fabric. We can replace entire line sets, replace the risers, but once the fabric porosity is shot, that means the glider has seen its useful life. After that, we check the risers, make sure everything is functioning and inspect length. And then we do laser line measuring and retrimming to make sure everything is in the appropriate length and symmetry in the glider. My favorite part of the glider shop is getting to see all the different wings. Every manufacturer and individual glider has different things about the way they're constructed, their geometry, the size, and it's fascinating to see all those. As far as the inspections go, my favorite part is the line measuring. You get to tell a lot about a glider, how it's used, where it's used, and getting it back into symmetry and spec is really satisfying. Top 3 things you should never do with the glider. Let it land on its leading edge when you're bringing it down. Pack it away wet. If you get a glider wet, you never want to hang it up to dry. The best way to let it dry will be letting it be flat and spread out. I know taking up an entire living room is not always going to be best for everyone's family situation, but finding a shady spot to let it dry out in is best. If you hang it up, you're going to start to stretch the glider material, and that's something that can't really be fixed very well or easily. So keeping it flat and letting it dry out slowly and naturally is the best. Or keep it in a really tightly packed condition for prolonged periods of time. Any of the folds that are in the fabric, especially in a tight pack, will start to wear out the fibers and the material if held in that tight pack for longer. So if you're going to store a glider for a few months at a time, it's best to keep it in a loose pack, or maybe open it up and fluff it out every once in a while. So typically the best time to get your first inspection is after about 80 to 100 hours of flight time. That's going to be about the amount of time where lines can have their potential stretch or shrink when you want to get it put back into symmetry. And every glider is going to have a little bit of a different experience. If you fly in sand conditions or asphalt, it's going to get more worn out on the trailing edge. So there's different times when you would want to get inspections based on how much it's used, and following your first first inspection, you should try to get it done every year after that, or after you've had line replacements, because a new line replaced will have different potential to shrink and stretch than the existing lines on it. To schedule an inspection or repair, it's super easy. Just reach out to us on email or give us a call, and depending on scheduling and what other gliders I have in the shop, I schedule out them so that in the best case scenario, you don't have to be missing your glider for very long. We get it in, we get it taken care of, and back to you quickly.